it's definitely different than the past generation. That being that their friends that they know and the people that they date don't look like them, you know? And it's hard for them to take on that racism when they love that person and like that's their dear friend and someone they confide in. They don't see them differently. So racism is taught, and slowly but surely I feel and I hope that it becomes a dying breed and we stop teaching it.
Welcome everybody to this week's episode of It Takes Grit. I am so honored today because we have the beautiful Jess who is joining us, and you guys might recognize her. I shared her story on my social media and I reached out to her and I wanted her to be able to share her story. So Jess, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I know this is your first podcast.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And I just wanted this to be an open conversation. I know that you'll probably be a bit nervous. I definitely feel a little bit nervous as well. So I just want this to be educational, like just educational and highlight. So first of all, Jess, can you tell everybody who you are, what you do, where you're from, all of the things about you?
Perfect. I would love to. So I am a personal trainer and group fitness instructor here in Dallas, Texas. I teach everything from aqua to pop Pilates and everything in between. I grew up dancing, so coming into the fitness industry just felt natural for me because I feel the most alive when I'm moving my body and able to connect with people. So that's just where my path has led me. Other than fitness, I love cooking. I love eating good food and bad food, but I try to keep it balanced. I'm addicted to smoothies, so you'll always see smoothies on my page. And I'm just always trying to, use my voice and my platform just to spread some sunshine into the world.
And your Instagram page is beautiful. I mean, talk about vibrant and attractive and just like a page that's like full of energy. I love it. And, I found you because of Cassie Ho's workouts. And how did you get involved with that?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I love Cassie. I found her videos literally when I was probably around 16, 17. And I was going through like a really rough time dealing with a lot of depression. And my mom was like, here, try her workouts, do something. And literally that's the first day where everything started to change for me and everything turned around. So that's how I found Cassie, was doing her workouts. And then when I was 18, my first fitness certification was Pop Pilates. So it means so much to me to be an instructor and to be in that community because she represents so much light and so much unity. But that's how I met Cassie, and I was able to work with her quite a few times and get to know her on screen and off screen, and she's just all around a wonderful person.
She is. I've met her a couple of times. I remember the first time I met her was at a VidCon, a YouTube conference, and I was like so starstruck. And then she was like, she knew who I was. And I was like, oh my God, you know who I am? Like, you've literally made my life. I'm just like, this is amazing. And she just stands for so much. And that's how I found you. And so if those of you who are listening who don't know Jess's story or what we're talking about, we were in the middle of what's going on in the world right now with the riots and the protests. And this new movement, which I really feel there's something beautiful that has to come out of it. And I saw her post about you, about some messages that you were getting. And I put my hands up being naive, that I had no idea that this kind of behavior still happened. And I was shocked to the core, and I felt sick and I was in tears, and I can't even imagine how how you would be feeling. And I was like, how selfish of me to be feeling like this. But that's honestly why I reached out to you, because I was like, this is crazy. Like, no, we're not doing this. And so can you explain to people who maybe haven't seen the posts in your own voice, what the kind of messages that you had been getting? And was it more messages since the riots and the protests and these issues were happening?
Okay, so I was honestly, literally before I posted that, I was like almost at my limit, because I was balancing not talking about it and just like ignoring it. But on the other hand, it still felt like a weight because I feel like you see one side, but the other side is like all this negativity and demeaning comments. And I'm pretty sure like everyone gets them. But yeah, so I guess it also, I've been getting them like ever since I've been on Instagram, really. They've just been like all types you could ever imagine. And like I said, like some of them I'm like, I know where that comes from. So it's almost like I try to detach myself from those kinds of words, but over time it does get to you. And I felt like the more and more these events kept happening, and I usually don't talk about that kind of stuff on Instagram. Like I just like to keep it positive. It like no matter what's going on in the world, like I just try to like make it kind of a positive bubble. But I felt so moved about everything that was going on like the rest of the world, and I didn't want to express how I felt, and that's when it really like vamped up all of kind of the hate with me talking about it, or like just stick to what you post, like we don't hear about it. And then all the derogatory names started to come in, and like with that came good as well, but I was at the point where it was like overwhelmingly like amount of comments. And I was talking to a friend and telling her like last week before, well, 2 weeks ago before all this happened, I was like, you know what, I think I'm just gonna like step away from Instagram for a while and just let it go. Like I had enough. Like I need a balance, you know? Then I felt like, you know what, everyone's speaking up and speaking their truth. And I wanted to shed some light on it because I figured most people probably think like there's only good. And I do try to sift out bad comments that do pop up. Like I'm always on my phone, like trying to make sure I catch them because I don't want that to be in the space, you know? But I'll tell you now, when I posted on my story explaining the comments that I've received in my DMs and messages that I've been getting over the course of being on Instagram and just posting about a very powerful movement, it was hard. Like it was so hard. Like I was literally like shaking. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this. Like I'm going to get 10 times more hate. But my friend was like, people need to hear it, post it. And I told her, I was like, I'm not even going to get on Instagram till next week. Like I'm just done. I need a break. But it was the opposite, you know, like through this, you came into my life, and feeling so much support from literally around the world was something I didn't even know I needed. And I also know it helped a lot of people to see people coming together and to open others' eyes to see the kind of comments that still happen daily.
Yeah, I know you got so much support on my page, and I knew my community was going to be like, hell no, right? Hell no. I think you had 500 comments of people like, we love you, you're amazing. And so when so obviously you've always got, you said you've got messages like this from the beginning.
Yes.
Is that something, I know it sounds awful, but is that something that you expected, or is that just what your life is like? Is like, you know, as a white girl getting on Instagram, like I don't get any racist hate, and I very rarely, someone says you're too skinny, or you put on too much weight. That's literally about it. But I don't get any negativity. So for me to come on social media, I was never scared. So you're saying that when you first got started, you were literally scared just because of the color of your skin to even go on Instagram?
Yeah, like at times, like I thought it was just normal. I thought everybody kind of got that kind of, you know, mixed response from people. Like I said, I'm like, okay, these are not people I'm gonna let like take my voice. But definitely I just thought it was normal. Honestly, I'm like, I figured most people get that kind of hate. And I'm like, well, maybe some people like get like targeted based on like how they look, like, oh, you have a big forehead, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, yeah, everybody gets that kind of hate, like, you know. But I think it got to a certain level where I was like, all right, this is too much.
And you felt like it started to escalate when this happened?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because like I said, I don't really post about anything other than like whatever is uplifting. But when I started to post about it, yeah, it did crank up a lot. And that's when it got to the point where I wasn't able to open my app and not have these messages flood in. So at that point, it was just becoming a weight. And it was also people I knew and cared about that followed me from the beginning, completely turning on me and being like, what are you posting? Like, we hate this stuff. So it's just like, I mean, I'm going to use my voice. You can't make me not say the truth. So you can just go. So it was just very eye-opening because I had no idea that people like that followed me. So it was very eye-opening.
Well, at least you got rid of those people.
Yes, I got now I have.
You're like, thank goodness that I spoke up because I don't want you on my page anyway.
Exactly. You did me a favor.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people of sending out emails and people unsubscribing and now people are writing emails and saying, hey, if you unsubscribe, thank you. Like, I'm pleased. And they're almost prefacing it in the email. Like, hey, if you don't like this stuff, I'm fine with you unsubscribing. Like, we're just not meant to be in this community together.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So obviously there's a lot of stuff that you have to deal with online. I know that you've got lots of love as well, which is definitely something that, you know, that's a great thing, that there's lots of love that's come out of this. Obviously there's some stuff that's happened online. Is there a time or something that you'd like to share that's happened to you offline in your life, at school, wherever, where you have been treated differently because of the color of your skin?
I feel like for me, and probably most people that are Black, they've had experiences like that, and they are all completely different. But when this movement happened, and probably why people of color feel so strongly about it, is because those little echoes of racism that they've had in their life is all like, they know, like, finally someone, like, people are speaking up and coming together. And I really do appreciate you asking me to share my stories, and I would love to. I feel like, let's see, when I was younger, I wasn't aware of color or racism, like, at all. Didn't know it was a thing. Like I said, I grew up in California when we were talking earlier. And I went to I was homeschooled, but I went to like a private academy, and it was all white, and no one treated me differently. Like, those were my friends, you know? It wasn't until I was around 9 and we moved to Texas where I really realized I was different from everyone else because of the color of my skin. And I think probably the first time was when we moved to our new neighborhood, and our house was being like TP'd and vandalized because we were in the neighborhood, and they were writing demeaning words like on our yard and things. And being so young and being like, why are they targeting us? Like, what's going on? Like, we just moved to this neighborhood. It was hard for me to get it. And it was very scary because I didn't feel safe. And I didn't feel like the community wanted us there, if that makes sense. But that was just only the beginning, because I had to begin to learn how to blend into a community that was all white. And pretty much I was the only Black person or Black family in our subdivision. But I mean, a lot of good things came from it, but also I think that was the first time where I was really like understanding like what racism was. And just even as a kid, like going to stores and things, like I would hear people say stuff about us and like about our skin complexion and stuff. It was like little things like that. And as a kid, I'm like, what? Like, I didn't get it. But then the more and more it happened as I grew up, and it became like clear to me that like racism is real. So like when you say you had no idea it was going on, like I completely can understand how the world could be viewed for you that way, because you've never experienced that way. And I mean, it means so much to me for you to like stand up for my post and even invite me on to speak about my experiences, just to kind of get an understanding of how it is to walk in someone else's shoes. But I can't even, because there's so many, which is sad, but there's so many instances where I've had to deal with racism, like on an extreme scale, on a small scale. Like there's so many, I just honestly don't even know where to start. But definitely the first time I was confronted with it was as a kid when we first moved to the suburbs, and just dealing with having to be in a community that didn't really want you there, if that makes sense.
Why do you think that? Because you were in a community of white people in California, and then you moved to another community of white people in Texas. What's the difference?
Right. That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, what? I mean, I do know that in California, it was a white community, but it was very diverse. That's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, like literally growing up in California, I did not really understand it or see it because it never happened. And maybe because I was young and didn't notice it. But and when I moved here, I was older and kind of got it. Maybe that's what it is. But yeah, I think it shows that one, everyone isn't racist, and it's all about what you have in your heart, you know?
And it's like, if you're surrounded by those people who think a certain way, it's like you are the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So
Yes.
do you have brothers and sisters?
I have one sister. She's older than me.
And how is she?
How old is she?
How old is she?
Oh boy, I keep forgetting. I think she just turned 28. Yes, 28 last week.
And is she in Texas too?
Yes, she's in Texas as well.
Wow. Okay. So I have another question for you.
Yes.
This is, I understand why it's Black Lives Matter. I think some people don't understand why it shouldn't be All Lives Matter. So
Yeah.
instead of having a go at these people, because I get it. Well, yes, of course, all lives matter. But
Definitely.
I think she did a great video. She says, your ankle's not broken, right?
Yeah.
That's great. So explain why it is that it's Black Lives Matter.
I think really understanding that Black Lives Matter, like if you on the side where you're, well, all lives matter. Well, if all lives really didn't matter, then you would be upset about everything that's going on. Like if all lives truly mattered, then you would get that Black lives are part of all lives. And right now they are being targeted. And I feel like saying like in response to Black Lives Matter, like, well, all lives matter is saying like, oh, it's okay. Like it doesn't matter. That it's just like, if you truly believe that all lives matter, then you would get like what this whole fight is about.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing to educate, because I've seen other posts saying, well, this has happened to me, and I think, I know I've done a lot of Tony Robbins, and we all like to have like an identity, right? It's something that's happened that gives us significance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that's the thing. Well, what about me? But I've been through some really bad stuff too, and it's like, yes, I understand that, but right now you're not the one who's suffering.
Exactly.
You're not the one that's going through this. I think I listened to an IGTV with Karina Scott, and she had Lauren on there, and they spoke about, at a breast cancer awareness, someone puts a hand up, well, I've got colon cancer. Yep, we understand that, and you do matter, but right now this is breast cancer, and this person is suffering with this, and this is what we're talking about. So
Exactly.
I know this is a conversation that we get to educate people on, rather than saying, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. It's like, okay, I understand how you feel. And what I've found is that this is the reason why we're hashtagging, Black Lives Matter. So thank you for clearing that up. How's the last week been for you? I know we were texting earlier. I gave you some space because you were like, I'll get back to you. I was like, hey, here's my telephone number. Whenever you need me, I'm here. And you messaged me last night, which I was so grateful for. And you said, I've been feeling overwhelmed, but I'm ready now. What's it been like for the last couple of weeks for you, in terms of just your own social media, but also just as the Black community as a whole?
Yeah, it's been very, very heavy and overwhelming, like very overwhelming. But at the same time, it's been very unifying. Like I feel like for me, because I'm a very artistic person, and artists are very sensitive, and they feel everything, good or bad. So when I feel the bad, I feel it like times 20. So these past couple of weeks were rough. I mean, I wasn't sleeping, which is not like me. Like I have to get my rest. I can't stay up late, but I had like 3 days straight where I did not sleep a week, just because I was so like upset about everything that was going on, and having a lot of people that I call friends or in my community kind of turn their backs on me and the whole everything that's going on. So it was very hard. And then at the same time, you still want justice for those lives that were innocently lost. And it was just a lot. And also just seeing my father struggle was the hardest, because like just how you may not be able to understand or relate to how it is to be a Black person, but we can try to understand. And me as a Black female, I will never know how it is to be a Black male. and it's completely different weight, and the world sees you completely different. And seeing and like growing up and watching my father, like I do see how the world views him differently and accepts him differently. And when these things happen, I do see how it affects him mentally. So it was hard just to see him just be sad and grieved about everything going on, but also feel like his voice, it doesn't matter almost. So it was just an emotional week, honestly, just all around. And like having like friends I know and family also feeling so just almost just their soul and their spirit is just disturbed and grieved. So that has been literally how I felt for the past few weeks, bursting into random tears, just because I'm pretty sure you see the news and you see what's on your news feed, and it's overwhelming. It really is. But seeing everyone speak up, I've never, ever, ever seen anything like that before. I mean, literally ever. Seeing brands speak up, people I don't even know speak up and just say how they feel and support just the human race, that part of the human race that isn't being treated equally. It's beautiful. So I feel like change has been long overdue, but it's slowly starting to happen, because we have to literally, the change has to start in our homes and in our hearts and with conversations and really understanding who your neighbor is and who your friend is, like understanding the core of them and accepting them. And that goes both ways. And I feel like people are having that conversation, and that's why we're seeing this sweep over the world with everyone unifying and coming together.
It's been incredible to watch protests all over the world.
Yes.
We went from COVID to being 6 feet apart. So everyone
No.
going through it. We're all now in protests.
Yes, forget it. I'm like, what happened to COVID? Literally.
I know all the COVID people are probably like, oh my goodness, the last thing that we thought was going to happen was close together protests.
Exactly.
One thing that I've been educating myself on, and I'm no expert on this, but I've been reading, I've been watching documentaries, I've been trying to, I will never understand, but I'm trying to just educate, and you can help me with this, is that a lot of people, you know, who are white might look at people and say, well, you know, you can vote, you can do everything, like, you know, you're treated the same, you have the same equality, you have the same equality now. However, what I'm learning is that there's just such deep rooted, like almost like pain in the history that you guys have endured. And, you know, I think it was in 1920s that the women got the vote, but black women didn't get the vote until 1964. Is that correct? I mean, that's not that long ago, and that's still, it's embedded. So
yeah,
why do you feel like, and people are like, oh, it's all fine, but there's so much history of the way that you guys had been treated. That's still in your soul, right? Can you explain that to us?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing that literally, like, it blows my mind to this day still, that like slavery wasn't that long ago. Like my grandparents were slaves. So it's like right there, you know? And I listen to them and hear their stories of how they grew up, and it's a completely different world now than it was then, but there's still things that need to change because we're still fighting for the same thing, and that's just to be equal. But yeah, so I do think definitely it just trickles down into each generation, and it kind of becomes part of our culture, if that makes sense. But I just can't believe that like my grandparents went through all that, if that makes sense, you know? And when they tell me like, oh yeah, like they grew up when everything was segregated and just like a completely different world, it does make me not take things for granted now, like just being able to like have friends of all different colors and being able to vote and come and go without like people not necessarily kicking me out, even though you may feel it still. But it is something that I feel that like my parents did educate me on, and my grandparents kind of taught me the history of it all and the importance of it, to know it and to know how it started and where your bloodline came from. And if if that wasn't your bloodline, so maybe you would never had the opportunity to learn from it, like firsthand. So you may not get like the deep rooted fight for this that we feel, kind of. But I think it's beautiful how you're like asking and like, I want to know and I want to get it.
Yeah, and I think when we say Black Lives Matter, and just looking back at history, I've had some people, I've seen posts of people saying, well, this happened in my country, there's been this, there's been X, but like there is no other like race that has suffered as much as the Black community in terms of the slavery of what happened. And I think that that's still such a raw thing. And they're not looking at the whole, they're not looking at everything. They're looking at what it is right now. Look, we're all equal, blah, blah, blah. Exactly. And I'm trying to educate to say, right, but your grandparents weren't slaves. And like, I think that's what we need to educate people on. I mean, in terms of like what I feel like my, white friends need to be educated on is that there's hundreds of years of this that that's not in our soul, that's not in the root of us, but you were born into that because grandparents are there, and they're right there, like you can
literally,
they're right there, right? You can still have that conversation. So it's like, I feel like, I really want to educate people to say, like, this is what's been going on for like all of these hundreds of years. Like your race hasn't experienced this, right? Yes, all the races have experienced some type of, struggle and issue, but right now this is what we're fighting for, and this is because of
definitely
that you went through. I mean, I've been recently watching a couple of documentaries, and it is it's heartbreaking. I don't know if you've seen Lady Gaga's, she did a speech the other day, and she spoke about, and this is an analogy I just wanted to share with everybody, is that she wants to create a new forest. And I loved her analogy here because she said that these seeds had all been planted, right? These seeds have been planted years and years ago. Trees had grown. Those trees had created branches of people's ideologies of what the world would be. And their racism comes from the embedded roots. And then the branches are the kids that come off there. But all of this next generation has to plant the new seeds. We have to be the one that recreates that forest. And I really felt like over the last 10 years we got somewhere, and that the new generation were not racist. I mean, I'm just being naive here, but obviously, do you feel like we're making progress? Do you feel like there's change? Do you feel like what's it gonna take?
I feel like we've just begun, and there's so much more that we have to do. I feel like right now we're still getting the basics of understanding each other, and understanding that, you may not have that experience, but understanding their experience. And the reason why the world is the way it is today is because of the past. And I do feel like people didn't want to have that discussion and conversation. They didn't want to get it, but I feel like right now where we are is where people are ready to listen and to get it. And that's beautiful. And I feel like that's literally us making a change for the better. So, and slowly making the world view everyone equally. And also I feel like I do agree with you that, the new generation, it's definitely different than the past generation. That being that their friends that they know and the people that they date don't look like them, and it's hard for them to take on that racism when they love that person and like that's their dear friend and someone they confide in. They don't see them differently. So racism is taught, and slowly but surely I feel and I hope that it becomes a dying breed and we stop teaching it. And that goes like every color,
Yeah, I really feel obviously it's Pride Week as well. I think it's Pride Month as well, and it's like, I mean, if you're doing whatever you want to do, as long as you're not hurting anybody, live your life.
Pretty much, yes.
If you literally. If you've got so much time on your hands that you can literally go and be nasty to somebody else, like you're hurting inside. I mean, you got way too much time on you. You need to be adding value to the world. It's like, hey, as long as I don't care what you do, who you are, as long as you're doing everything legally, great.
Right.
And that's, and I just, I really feel like, especially with the new generation with the LGBTQT community, it's allowing more space for people to be themselves.
Oh, yes.
I have a couple more questions for you. One I wanted to ask is, what is non-racist versus anti-racist mean to you?
That's a very good question. I feel as though, to me, like, you can say, like, oh, I don't see color, or, oh, I'm not a racist person. But if you were in a room and someone that was a different color than you was being treated unfairly, you wouldn't speak up because it wouldn't affect you, you know? So you can say those words all you want, but it's important to show actions, because actions speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's important not to just, one, don't take offense, but like, oh no, like, I'm not racist. Like, I would never, like, instead of saying it, show it, you know? And I think that's what's very, 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 very important. And if you don't know how to show it, you're like, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to say, like, the first thing you do is just listen and just, like, tell me about your experience. Like, help me get it, you know? And just remembering, like, we're not against each other. It's everyone against racism. So, like, yeah, like, you don't feel like, you know, you're being labeled as a racist. Like, no, you're trying to get it so we can all squish this, you know?
Yeah, I feel it's like, oh, I'm not a racist, but if I heard something, I probably wouldn't say anything. And does that make me a racist? Does that not? It's like, well, honestly, it just, you know, it determines of what you want to stand up for. And if you're not standing up for it, you're kind of agreeing with the racism.
Exactly. Because as someone that's being oppressed and they're looking out and they're seeing a bunch of people, if you don't help them, they're not being like, oh, you know, you care about me. You're not racist. You're just not saying anything. Like, to them, that act shows them that you don't care and that, you know, you view them as not needing help, you know? So yeah, it's important to do those actions to show it that you support.
Yeah, it's standing up. I've seen a lot of stuff on social media about, and I just want to educate people on this. So it's Black, and then it's people of color. Some people are putting POC, and then some people saying the Black community, and that there is a difference. Can you explain that to us? What do you want to be called? What is the right word to call? You know, because I feel like through the, you know, last like 20, 30 years, there's been, we can call people Black, and then it was then African American, and then it was, can you explain that to me, just as somebody so I can educate myself?
Definitely. I have had a lot of people, Black people, contact me, and like, they kind of feel like, you know, it is an issue because we would prefer to be just called Black instead of being like letters, you know? Like, for one, I forget what the acronym is. It's like PO something. Like, I didn't even know what it was. I was like, wait, what are these letters? What? I had to Google it because I'm like, wait, what are we now?
What are they calling me now?
Yeah, like, wait, what did I miss? But yeah, definitely just Black, you know, pretty much. Because that's what we are, and that's what we've been called, and, you know, yeah, it's very dicey. And I know that, speaking from people that are Black, they do feel like offended when people use letters instead of saying the full word, if that makes sense.
And what if somebody has a white mom or dad and a Black, and then they are, I guess, a great mixture, a mixture of both, right?
Right.
Are they called mixed? Or what is the word? What's the right word?
They say like biracial.
Biracial.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like it also depends on that person and what they identify as. I have a lot of friends that are biracial, and for them to decide what they associate with is basically the way the world views them. And unfortunately, like, even if it's a drop of Black, the world views you as Black, so they just identify as Black, which is interesting because I've never been, clearly. I've never been biracial, so I had no idea. Yeah, so I feel like it just depends on the person.
So it's
Yeah.
just asking that person, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
or just person, or it's just Jack.
Yeah, exactly, literally.
Well, I really appreciate your time, and you've given us so much insight and so much education. Is there anything else that you would like to share or express or just educate us on, or anything that you'd else like to add?
I just want to say, like, just keep having the hard conversations and asking questions. And I know for me, this isn't something that it's gonna fade away in a few weeks. It's something I'm always gonna speak about and continue to, make the world a better place. I know for me personally, I'm gonna try to. I already have a very rainbow variety of friends, but I'm going to even try to open up my friend circle even more with people that have different views than me, look different, because like that's how we change this. So I just wish and hope that after you're done posting, like, are using your hashtags, like, go out and do things to make the world better and show that racism is a dying thing. So yeah, so just have more friends that don't look like you. Go to lunch with someone, invite them to a workout class, call them. And if you do have friends that are people of color or black or biracial, just reach out to them and have a conversation. Just talk. Maybe don't even talk about it. Just say, like, how are you doing? Or send them a flower or something like that.
That's beautiful. And it's I have a fitness app, and I have 2 other trainers on it that do like 5%, but the majority of it's me. And we were actually going to be holding castings for more trainers, because we've got this set outside for like another two months or so. So we're really excited to do some auditions in the next couple of weeks to find and to create so somebody that everybody feels like they can see. We want a whole diversity of people. That's what makes it everybody of the audience see one another in themselves as well. So thank you so much for sharing the light and just being so open. I know that I can't even understand. I'm not going to try to understand, but I just want to say thank you so much. And this was beautiful. So
thank you for having me on.
Jess, where can they find you on Instagram? Because, by the way, guys, you have to follow her because her page is beautiful. So where can they find you, Jess?
You can find me at Jess _ like that _
Okay, amazing. I'm going to put all your details as well in the description below. So thank you so much, Jess. Guys, thank you for listening to this week's episode of It Takes Grit. Go share your love on Jess's page. Make sure you subscribe and share this with a friend today so that we can educate the world to make it a better place. Thanks, everybody. See you next time. Bye. Educate yourself on what people go through. I read a post the other day that was like, hey, just because I'm black, I get pulled over, 4 times in the last month in my